Good morning. Welcome to the first Committee of the Whole meeting for 2026 for the municipality of the County of Annapolis. Just a review that we should have all our cell phones off, just in case everything goes blaring, and we do not want to interrupt the meeting. Another one is in case of fire, we do have two exits, to the right, to the left. You go down the hall to the front entrance, and out to the front, and way back into the parking lot where Tina will meet us. All right. Yes, I hope everybody had a great holiday season, and everybody is ready to start our new year in a positive way, and hoping that we do not have to encounter too many issues as we did last summer. So let's power on. We will start with roll call.
District 1, Councilperson Salzman.
District 2, Jesse Hare. District 3, Dustin Ansel. District 4, Charles Cranton.
District 5, Lynn Longmire.
District 6, John Welch.
District 7, Ted Eggenbar.
District 8, Niall Harding.
District 9, Gidget Oxner.
District 10, Brian Fuzzy Connell.
And District 11 is me, Diane LeBlanc. Is there any disclosure of interest? Seeing none, we'll move on. We need the approval of the agenda. Oh, we have an addition. I guess I might as well do that right now. We have an addition. It will be a 7.4, an additional section of 22.2G. Am I correct, Madam? Okay. Of the Municipal Governments Act. So that's 7.4. I need the approval of the agenda as amended by Councilperson Salzman and seconded by Councilor Welsh. All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Nay. Against no. Motion passed. Okay, we are on page 3, where is the approval of the minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes or anything about the minutes of December 9th, 2025? Seeing none, we approve the minutes as they are. We will move on to page 6, which is a report that was written up by Ms. Campbell on the policy 120 Code of Conduct, and we have a recommendation. Councilperson Salzman.
I move that Municipal Council amend Policy 120 Code of Conduct for elected officials as circulated. 7-day notice.
Thank you. Seconder? Deputy Warden? Are there any questions or comments on this report? Yes.
Just wanted to say, like, I agree with the recommendation. It's important, obviously, that our policy align with the regulations, but for the interest of people listening and whatnot, the code of conduct still applies, so it's important to note that it's not that it's been scrapped or disbanded. It still applies, and it's just the complaint process proved to be ineffective, so it makes sense to replace it. And so I do hope that the province doesn't just let it be, because it is important to have some type of process for members of the public to voice their concern and when a legitimate complaint needs to be filed that they haven't had it. So, but yeah, I agree with the recommendation.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Any other questions or comments? Okay. All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passed. We are on page 18, which is a staff report by, again, Madam Campbell, and we have a recommendation. Could somebody, yes.
I move Municipal Council amend Policy 114, Council remuneration as circulated, 7-day notice.
Thank you very much. Seconder? Councillor Cranton. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passed. Okay, we are page 23. We have again a report which is presented by Madame Holliday. She's coming, Madame Holliday. We need Councillor Aguilar.
I move that municipal council amend policy 135 fees as circulated.
Very much. Seconder. Councillor Longmire. And Madame Holliday, would you like to just give us a little review of what?
Sure, so we actually just put this through in December, and then we noticed that just on the very last page of it, that our quantities for our photocopying fees were a little off, so we just amended, because we had 1 to 10, and 1 to 50, 1 to 100, instead of 1 to 10, 11 to 50, and so that's the only change from what you approved last month.
Thank you very much. There's only a correction. Are there any questions? Comments? Okay. All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passed. Merci, Madame Halliday. The next is a report which is prepared by our CAO, Frost. And I need the recommendation to be read out. Deputy Warden, sorry.
I move that municipal council receive the West Dalhousie wildfire after-action report as information.
Thank you very much. Seconder, Councillor Carson Saltzman. Monsieur CAO, would you like to speak on our report?
Thank you, Gordon. So just wanted to provide a quick presentation about the after-action report for your awareness as well as the public's. So first of all, what is an after-action report? An after-action report is basically looking at what happened during an event and then looking at what went well, what could be improved upon. It's very important to do that after any significant event so that if, hopefully it never does happen again in this county, but if it were to happen, that we're even more prepared than we were last time. It also is very beneficial for other municipalities that might face a similar situation in the future to point out what went well for us and what we would have done a little bit differently. So first of all, I would say that, as you know, we've talked about already with this council, that in our opinion, the response was very good overall. The staff here was certainly incredibly dedicated to ensuring that things went the way that they should in the best way possible for everyone involved. The cooperation between the Annapolis Remo, provincial agencies, other partners was also very good, which again was very good for the event overall. Some key items that were great examples for future response, and again things that we would want to share with other municipalities. Our public info line, which was created very early on, which was used quite a bit by everybody just to get information, and that was staffed consistently for well over a month, probably 6 weeks. Cross-staffing with the provincial ICIP when we could do that, and the coordination center was a positive thing, one thing that we've already had discussion with the province on, that it's important that in any event in the future, that's coordinated well, so that there's somebody in the ICP and that there's somebody from the province in our coordination center. The Navigator program, again, was something a bit different about our event, where somebody was put in place to specifically help with residents that were going through the event. So again, another good item that will be used in the future for sure. Some areas for improvement. So when the event happened, of course, in a major emergency, you do what you need to do, and again, as I said before, staff did a great job to ensure that everything happened that needed to happen. We could probably follow the ICS plans a little bit better, which would just change a few things down the road and help track things a little bit better, that type of thing. So we'll have further discussion on that. Again, cross-staffing and comm structure is something that we can do. And that relates just how we talk to the province and how we put out joint communications and all that type of thing. Ultimately, it worked well, but it could have been more efficient during some of those events. Documentation. One thing that we did that it's not part of the ICS structure, but we had someone that was documenting constantly, a scribe, and which was really good for us at the end of the day because we had very good notes. But through the ICS process, there is a documentation process that is a little bit different than what we did. Again, so there's probably a blend of what ICS would suggest you should do and what we did that would be ideal. Personnel management, so as I'm sure this council knows, we had a number of staff that worked, in my opinion, way too much, way too long. And that shows the dedication to the community, absolutely. You can't fault them for that, but it also did lead to, there's people that should have taken more breaks. So again, that would be something that we would stress should we ever have an event like this in the future. And one thing that I think we learned was about finding ways to do communication with the residents quicker and more efficiently. So it's always tough to figure out the best way to do that, but we did find once we started doing those community meetings, that was helpful, and that helped, have good one-on-one conversations and group conversations to provide information as timely as we could. So future work on the after action. So the province will be completing their own after action report. That will be starting fairly soon to what I've been told. And we'll be asked to participate in that exercise. So again, our document that, if council receives it, will be part of that discussion as well as any staff that were involved in our response. One thing that we've talked about doing as well, which we just haven't done yet, but we certainly will, we want to look to gather additional information from any of the residents that were directly affected. So certainly those in West Dalhousie and surrounding areas. And then integrate any of the recommendations that we brought forth today into our future email plans. So with that, I'm certainly open to any questions that the committee may have.
Deputy Warden, Councilor Longmire, Councilor Connell.
So, I guess I just want to take this opportunity to, again, thank the municipal staff and everyone that was part of this. It was a well put together after action report, and I've seen many in my lifetime. It's interesting, in there's some of the recommendations, which I agree with almost all of the recommendations, but when the time comes to look at it, we have to really think about being serious with some of them. Like the current building we're in isn't really set up for an emergency situation. So, that really leads to a further discussion around the building. In that report, it talks about, the strengths, the weaknesses, and so on. But I'm hoping that no one looks at the weaknesses that was identified in there as that we didn't handle it right or we didn't handle it the way that it should have been. We have to realize that it was an ongoing situation that changed not even hour by hour, minute by minute. And overall, I feel that we accomplished something huge and we were successful at it. Of course, hindsight's 20/20, always. We should have always done things a little bit different. But I just don't want the morale that we gained during the forest fire to be hindered by any type of report after. Because I felt that it brought not only council together, but it brought municipal staff and all of our partners together, and I don't want to lose that. So, hopefully no one takes the weaknesses to heart. I think we did a wonderful job. So, bravo Zulu to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Longmire?
Thank you. I'll keep it brief. It was an exceptional type of August, and the many faces that sat around this room and tirelessly worked. I fell into this room by mistake one day. I didn't have an invite. I just was unable to access on my technology So therefore, I fell into this room and sat, so I saw firsthand, the conversations and, the dedication, the commitment from Annapolis County. We were under the support of Deputy CAO, Dawn Campbell, who has just recently retired. What a way to go out with a bang, right? She was exceptional as well, and then we welcomed our CAO, Rob Frost, and we've been blessed. Thank you to council, thank you to the staff that as well worked tirelessly. It takes a huge team, and dedication isn't the word to even use in this way. But, it was the first time ever actioning a plan. And so until you action a plan, you can't know what you don't know. And so that's, I don't want to echo what Deputy Enslow has said, but I too don't wish to hear, criticisms. Rather, come with constructive thoughts and be thoughtful about those thoughts, and share them so that we can grow and expand on that emergency plan that we have. So although it's unfortunate and the circumstances that all transpired left some tragedy, I'm glad there were no lives lost. And so there's a lot of room for growth, and I look forward to wherever that table is that allows members to sit at, to work through and put together some additional information or share some thoughts and ideas. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Cotw.
I just want to say that the AFT report was good, and it has some good ideas going forward, but I didn't see anything in it about the security of the barricades. And that was one of the big issues that the public had to deal with. Not blaming anybody, but one individual goes back and forth, has brazen enough to stop at a barricade and tell the guy that you guys aren't going to stop me from going in and out, and nobody did. It made it very hard for the public to swallow that. And I think that's one of the things that, going forward, no matter if it's a hurricane that comes up through, and we've seen across the world, the destruction that goes on with thieving and stuff like that, when they have the opportunity to do it. And I think that just that there was nothing mentioned in the report about just trying to work and make sure our barricade system is working better. Because some people got ushered in, but other people were refused. So I mean, if it's gonna be a good planned system, if you're gonna allow people to go in supervised, you gotta kind of allow everyone that wants to go in and check their properties. It's not the elite that should be going in and checking stuff like their cottages after the fact. That's what the public, that's what the public But I definitely, procedures that went and the massive destruction that was done by the fire. Everyone worked very well together. Just praise that part, praise it all. I just think that going forward, we definitely should improve how we're going to lock down.
If I may speak to that for a second. Thank you for that point, Councillor, and it is a very good point, and definitely something that would be an improvement that could happen. Our after action report really focuses on what we did and what we were responsible for. So as you know, I mean, the security of the barricades was not our responsibility. Definitely something we'll have discussions when the province does their after action plan. Well, I already made a note, so we'll make sure that gets addressed and captured something for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, once again, thank you for the report, CAO. It's encompassing pretty well everything that took place, that's for sure. But I also just want to say, it was a tragedy that was sprung upon everybody that was involved in it. And I was probably a little bit more involved than most of the rest of the council because it just happened to be in my district. And I saw on a daily basis, particularly because my, I guess, liaisonship, if you want, was with the people themselves, back and forth between their information and what was going on here in the control room. So I appreciate the ability to have access to that. I appreciate having had the ability to have access to that. And it certainly made my role, with the folks up there, a little easier for sure. And it was a good communication back and forth. Again, the accolades were there. Everybody thought it said everybody did a good job. Like the deputy warden said, it was changing by the minute on some days, and that's not an exaggeration. Kudos to everybody. I saw on those video links that we were involved in on those daily meetings what was taking place in this room, and everybody did their job, their due diligence remarkably well, I thought. And it was a huge learning curve, and this is even the next wrap-up to that, so thank you very much for your report, and thank everybody for how they handled the situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other Councilor Cotw?
Yeah, just kind of echoing what some of the councilors have said. I too thank staff for preparing the report. Having been one of the councilors that was a little bit removed from, we're all involved, but obviously it's closer for some than others. This report helped give a good snapshot of the day-to-day and what you guys dealt with, how you did it. It drove home a couple points. It drove home the value of some of the work we already had in place with our remote situation, and it referenced having some of the memorandums of understanding in place with some key organizations help for a much quicker response time. And some of those MOUs were just recently developed for it. So just want to put that in. That was a positive of staff for getting that stuff in place. In terms of perceived weaknesses, I just made a note, called it areas of improvement, is what it's referred to in the document, and I think no matter how good a plan is, there's always room for improvement. Really like the comment that Councilor Longmire just said, you don't know what you don't know until it's put in place, and that's a very true thing. You could spend hours and hours planning for something like this, and you're not going to get it right until it happens. But I'm glad that we did identify its response. That's a sign of a responsible organization, is including areas for improvement in your report, which they did a good job of. And if you just identify them and do nothing with them, then maybe that's not responsible. But the document in the very next section has recommendations for improvement, and the recommendations directly speak to the areas needed for improvement. Good job. In my mind, this is a good report. I think it's probably a good way forward. I support all the recommendations on page 31. Some of the things that are going on. There's a future staff.
several years that, apparently this list is somehow supposed to come about. But, this as well, under the other on page 38 of 210, it says civic numbers needing improvement. Not just the civic numbers, we need to know the people, where these people are living, and, their circumstances. And so, I'm hopeful that this will as well put a push on how important this vulnerable persons list is in this province. And it's not about, I'm hoping that we don't go through another disaster, but we know that it's more than likely we will either experience perhaps a fire or a flood or something. So, we've got one-way in communities, and, we really need to take that serious. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other council? None. Thank you very much, CAO Frost, for the report. And I can echo the same comments that everybody has said. However, the bottom line is, every situation is different, and we have to take it one day at a time, or 1 minute at a time, as things change fast. It was our first run, and hopefully our last. However, you never know. We are prepared. Other municipalities helped us out, and hopefully with our report, it helps out the other municipalities and those that haven't gone through it, so that if and when, hopefully not, they go through something similar, they can use some of our recommendations to go forward to help them move along more quickly, because you're overwhelmed with everything, just everything. And your concern is obviously to your citizens as a whole. So thank you, councillors, thank you, staff, thank you, everyone participating and helping the community that was having such great difficulty, and still are in some cases, some of them that have not have lost their homes. So moving to a great 2026. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. So the report is accepted as, you don't need a motion, or just accept the report? You want the motion? Okay, well, we have the motion was by Deputy Warden Kaufman. All in favor of accepting the report, signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no? Motion passed. Thank you very much. We are now moving on to page 46, which is a report which is going to be presented by Monsieur Wills. And it is on our municipal profiling and our FCIs. And he will give us a report on where we stand, but we're looking pretty good. Some of you will remember it's about the house. It's about the house, how the house is doing. Monsieur Wills, you're up.
Thank you. So back in July, Ms. Anderson presented the municipal profile and financial conditions report for the year ending March 31st, 2023. I'm not going to go into a lot of details. I just want to highlight 2 or 3 items that I think are of significance and that you should be aware of. Overall, we are still in a strong financial position. You can tell by the house that there's 2 yellows within there. The 2 yellows, one is liquidity and the other one is deficits in the last 5 years. When the 24-25 report comes out, that deficits in the last 5 years will turn green. Because that particular deficit was the year ending March 31st, 2020, the 5 years will be up. The liquidity one, we're sitting right on the cusp. For that to be green, it has to be 1.6. We're sitting at 1.5, so potentially when the 24-25 report comes out, we're likely to have either 1 yellow or all greens based on how we're trending. The only other item that I wanted to point out was the 3-year change in the tax base. We went from 8.4% to 24.2%. So this is basically, the assessment is based on January 2022 for the year ending March 31st, 2024, because it runs a year behind. And of course, everyone knows what happened in 2021. A lot of people were moving to Nova Scotia, which removed the cap. And therefore, the assessment values that are off the tax.
When I read the description of all that, someone told me what I need to know, and it's a somewhat a reflection on the affordability, as it's the, for lack of better terms, the property tax strength compared to the average median income of those and everything. And with, I think I've seen a later stat that below 4% was considered a positive indicator, so around 2.5, so that was good. The thing that I would stress, this is my first opportunity to say it, and I know I'm going to say it a few times over the next few months, is just that we be mindful when we go into budget process on the affordability of our property taxes. Inflation is hitting the people and our residents from many different avenues. Nova Scotia Power is in the news all the time. Other municipalities playing property tax increases are in the news, groceries, interest rates, and all that. So we just need to be mindful. So long way around it is this indicates that below 4% is a good number. I would not want to see us go up to 3 or 3.5. So it's just kind of mindful that when staff begin to present budgets, I would like to also know what the effect on this particular ratio would be. Because if we can keep it around 2.5%, that will certainly address some of my comfort levels. And just to put in perspective, 2.4 up to 2.5 is an increase of 1%. Doesn't look like a big number. But when I work it, you're talking on millions. When I work it out, first off, 2.4 up to 2.5 is a bump of 4.1%. Of things. So, and when I looked at later data about median incomes and averages, to get a rough idea, it worked out to about $60, which in the grand scheme of things is not going to break anybody. But if it was to go up to 3.5%, that works out to about $600, which would be a strain. So it's just kind of mindful that where I'm going with this is that this, to me, as a counselor, reflective of the people we represent, when we're thinking about affordability, this is a key indicator to keep an eye on. And although the provincial data says 4% is, you're below that, it's just mindful that anything above 2.5 is going to have a strain on the pockets of our taxpayers. So, long way around it. Hopefully you got my point, and it was my first opportunity to bring it up. But I'd like to bring it up ahead of
again, recent data that showed rural comparison. So that's, I agree with you 100%. That's something we need to go. But
Are there any other questions? Councilor Longmire?
First, I need to say thank you, Mr. Wills, for this report. And I am not an accountant, so when I will make mention of what I'm going to say, it's after a generalization of reading what I did and doing a little bit of homework and asking some experts, so bear with me. But I really appreciated what Councillor Cranton had said. When you're low risk, it feels comfortable, but it doesn't mean that there isn't going to be risk ahead of us. And we know that there's a lot of capital pressures that are going to put some weight on our shoulders. And that affordability piece is going to be, it's where is all this coming from, right? Our old aging infrastructure to this building already showing us that it didn't meet the demand, the needs that we, required during emergency measures. So, we do have some pretty weighted projects that are going to have to take place, and, 40-year, 60-year plans, that, of course, will probably carry some debt. But sometimes that's not a bad thing either, right? So, I'm pleased with all that I can understand, and I thank you for your expertise and your ability to answer questions when asked. Thank you.
I do have a comment.
You have a comment, go ahead.
So the only thing I would say is, this is a snapshot as of March 31st of that year. There's nothing that says you have to be green all the time, nothing that says you have to be yellow all the time, because when you take on debt, the numbers will change. But it's a matter of having a plan on how it can dip down to a yellow or a red. How do you bring it back up over time to get back to being red? So the goal is not green all the time. The project you need to develop a plan in order to meet those projects and eventually possibly dip down.
Thank you.
Yes. Are there any other questions?
So I did have another one that's a little more straightforward, though. So on page 47 of the report, the last reserve, the combined reserves, 9.5%, and then the comment, appearance that the municipality has adequate reserves, this includes all reserve, does not reflect capital asset replacement costs. So when I interpreted that, and I'm thinking back to budget, when we looked at the budget last year in our capital budget, it's almost like from one perspective, from that particular stat, we have adequate reserves, but I counter that, and it's for status quo operations, not necessarily adequate reserves for planned capital expenditures.
You need to repeat that a little louder. Sorry, but I got hearing aids and I don't pick up everything.
So I guess when I interpret it, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I guess my question is, if I interpret it right, is it implies we have adequate reserves sort of for status quo operations, but when we were reviewing our capital budget last year, it didn't look like we had adequate reserves for planned capital expenditures. Saying that the note also does not reflect capital assets.
Depending on the reserves, the operational reserves, for instance, are adequate to cover the operational needs. It's very rare for a municipality to have capital reserves that covers 100% of their capital. Typically, you're getting money from the feds, the province, and/or the board. But it's basically a delicate balance as to how much you want to borrow, what grants you qualify for, what you have in reserves. Just trying to think off the top of my head here. So when it comes to doing, when you're doing a budget, you may have to do it over a number of years. I'm not aware of anything that's not. So essentially, when you're looking at reserves, you say they're adequate to cover, from an operational point of view, they are. From a capital our capital reserve that can help lower the amount that we may or may not have to lower. You know, 'cause when I was CEO of the Municipal Finance Corporation, that was a great time to borrow. They're not that low anymore, right? I know when I left, they were 4.5. Don't know what they were last year, so I haven't looked them up yet. I mean, I think they've grown. So, I mean, it's not an ideal period of time to borrow huge, but it's nothing wrong with borrowing that balance to like. Sense. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. So that raises a
question around, like, we just went through the wildfire after action report, and I think about the cost to the county and how and where we find that number. You know, I know going forward, I'm sure in budget time, you know, we're gonna be looking to put a particular amount, you know, set aside, right, in order to look after some of those details, right? Is that currently as part of our
We did not set
structure?
up a specific account for the wildfires. Everything was allocated based on its cost center and what the expense was for, but then we attached the work order number to it. So at the end of the year, we will be setting up a receivable to offset those costs. That doesn't mean we're going to receive 100% of the receivable. Hence the reason why we're not moving everything to one cost, one area. Is to leave it as it comes out of expense. As for anything future, if we're looking to set something aside, I suspect that'll be a discussion between myself and Mr. Ross.
Yes,
We're going to put it in the budget if we put it.
thank you for that.
Are there any other comments or questions? Seeing none, merci beaucoup, Monsieur Will.
Thank you.
So we're going to just move on now to accept the report as is and no motion needed. We are on page 90. This is a report that is prepared by Madame Ben on the approval of bylaw 11 buildings. I have a recommendation. Somebody, Councillor Walsh.
I move that committee of the whole recommend municipal council give first reading to approve bylaw 11 building, first reading.
Thank you very much. Seconded. Councillor Gare. Okay. Okay.
So this new bylaw deals with three particular changes. The main change of the bylaw to reflect our new numbering system for updated and/or new bylaws. It removes mentions of exemptions that already exist in the Nova Scotia Building Code Act and regulations. Should the act or regulations change, we wouldn't have to update our bylaw because we would follow those changes anyway. And it removes Schedule A and any references to fees, as we now have a new fees policy that you implemented in December.
Are there any questions for Madame Beck? Comments? Councillor Holmeier.
Thank you for that. So when a permit is required, and all of the information's in, and the fee is paid, where does the permit get posted on a project?
The Building Code Act and regulations say that the property owner is required to post it on their property, or have it at least on site, so that when we drive by, we have a few building inspectors, if one drives by and go, oh, there's something going on there, they can plainly see that it is there. It is for notification for the owner and the building inspector.
I'll leave it there, thanks. Appreciate it.
Okay. Any other councillor who wishes to ask a question or make a comment? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Paradise Public Works Facility. So there's been an expenditure of $4,288. I'm just wondering, what was that?
West Paradise?
The West Paradise Public Works Facility.
That was for the architect that, the tender documents for that original tender.
Oh, really?
That project was tendered. It came in over budget. So we're relooking at the total cost to make the facility usable, including water, sewer, and food.
Okay. On the Granville Street, Bridgetown Water / Sewer, Granville Street update. So can you, is this premature to ask where that stands right now?
Consultants are still working on the design. We met before Christmas and they were working through some issues regarding the right of way and some of the infrastructure as built, and we're scheduling meetings.
So you say that's going along as planned? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Welsh, and then Councillor Grandy. All the names came up, but not the right name. Okay, sorry about that.
I just wanted to mention our president was surprised with the beach parking lot savings. Took a draw down and have looked at it. They did a beautiful job. I wasn't there for the end of the first, so I didn't do that.
You were? Well, that's a surprise.
I was skiing.
Oh. A little bit warmer.
But they did a beautiful job. It's really nice to see that. It's a great asset to have in our communities. The other one, I guess, the Bear River paving got bumped probably till the spring due to the change in the weather, and the asphalt pump's getting shut down. So it'll be nice to see that. But thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Councillor Cranky.
Two. The first one being Hillside Drive water system over budget, $525,000. Just the question would be, like, what would be the planned course of action for cost recovery on the budget?
So Hillside shows that it's over budget. I've been working with finance. It looks like it was probably a budgeting error that we made that look like it's over budget because there was sufficient funds approved in the entire budget to cover the whole cost of this project. But it seems like they want to carry forward to this year's budget.
So collecting on budget. That's good. That's good news. The second, financial software, 199, 400,000 spent, and the notice it was purchased. Is the remaining, is the remaining in actual savings, or do we also anticipate that there will be, at a later date, some implementation costs?
I would think that the remaining would be for implementation.
You good? Thank you. Okay. Okay. Every word.
Thank you. Councillor Graham asked one of the questions. So around the water system upgrades countywide, so this summer we did the test drilling in Margarettsville. We never heard anything after that. Is it sustainable?
The well that we drilled, the new well that we drilled, is not, it won't meet the demand for the system. So what we're currently looking at is bringing online one of the previous wells that were online in that system. We did some preliminary pumping and testing before Christmas, and we
this is something that you inherited for sure, so you may not have the answer. Why is it taking so long for this design issue?
Well, I mean, they're working on it. There's a lot to look at, 'cause we're looking at water and sewer, sidewalk and the road. There's right-of-way issues, there's property constraints, so I'm trying to do that and get it within, it's not just a simple one iteration of design, it's really going to make sure that the driveways are working. I think the infrastructure piece is going to be right away.
Well, see, that's the information I was trying to see. It's easy to say, well, we just have to design it, but what are the impediments? Hopefully, we can move those along as quickly as we can, because as the deputy board said, the longer we push it down the road, the more it's costing us. So we're not really saving money by pushing it down the road too far. Everything else keeps going up, so the sooner we can get at it, the sooner we're gonna start saving some money. Thank you very much, appreciate your response.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Councilor Longmire?
Thank you. Can you be reminded as to where the electric vehicle charging station was to be placed?
This one is being placed at the sports hub in the parking lot.
And then I just want to kind of add to the frustration around the Granville Street stretch with all of the breaks and it's endless potholes, it's endless disruptions in traffic and flow. I think about kids who dodge a big water sinkhole and drive around it on the actual road in front of vehicles. That's happened, to me. I would be frustrated if I were living in that stretch. I'm just curious if there's any way that maybe in the very near future or such, if it's all right to ask, or can I ask that perhaps a report on where we stand with that project so that we can, feel confident that, that we're not looking at 2029. It's just, I think it's far long overdue. And there's so many constraints like you have spoke about, and I'm sure there's more that I'm not even aware of. And I certainly appreciate all the work that is going into getting us where we're going. But, I just think about that area and, yeah, so thanks.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Tom.
I had a question about the electric charger. Are we gonna get a report on, I've driven the bridge down several times, and I've saw one vehicle plugged into that charger in the last 6 months. Every time I go by there, I look in. I would like to know
municipal council authorize the procurement of a new ice resurfacer with funds from the Max Young Fund.
Thank you. Seconder. Counselor Aguilar. Counselor Ted. That's where I was going. Sorry about that. That's the second one this morning. All right. Are there any questions or comments for Madam Bradley? Dr. Donald?
Again, I'm gonna pick on the choice of electric vehicle. Across the country, because I have a nephew that did some planning for the Calgary and Edmonton area, have condemned not allowing electric vehicles to put in underground parking. I've seen several advertisements this year gone by where people's garages have burned with electric bicycles in it, causing fire. So if Bridgetown chooses, or whoever makes that decision on buying a Zamboni or a ice resurfacer, if it's electric, I'm hoping they're considering putting a separate building away from the rink. Because taxpayers are not gonna be happy. I mean, it's being proven, the fire departments have questioned, the fact is how these electric vehicles are dealt with. And it's great to think that that is the mindset going forward. But my mindset, if that rink burns down, Bridgetown better flood their sewer lagoons, because they're gonna have to go outdoors. It's, like I said, it's being proven across Canada that municipalities aren't allowing electric vehicles to be in confined spaces. So I just have that worry about if it's an electric ice resurfacer and it's put inside that arena, what it does.
Thank you very much, Counselor. Deputy Warden.
Thank you. I do understand the concern, Councilor, for sure. I had the opportunity over the past 6 to 7 months anyway, because I literally spending a lot of time in arenas with speed skating across the length again. And every time I have the opportunity to talk to the operators of the electric Zamboni, because every arena I go to now has these electric Zambonis. So I was curious and talking to them about how the purchasing of it and the equipment setup. Is it more beneficial? Do they like it better? So forth. And it seems like the general consensus is that they wish that they switched to electric years ago. Apparently they're easier to maintain. They're easier to use. And for some reason, the options that you get with the electric one are more than what you get with the propane in regards to like the settings and the sprayers and all that different thing. And they do share the same concern of fire, but the fact that Zambonis are kept in a separate area and they're filled with water, which electrical grants that they get automatically. There's one that they get as soon as it's purchased, and then there's one that they'll apply for, because they want to put money back into the Max Young Fund. Because this fund is not taxpayer, it's a fund that was set up for situations like this. And we're very fortunate to have that $70,000 investment by the individual in the town and us. Now it's at 1.3 million. So the fact that we can utilize that for that organization, and they can put money back in. But I'll leave it to the people who are the experts, but I just want to put my 2 cents that I found it very interesting, so I did talk to the different ranks. So I'm supportive of whatever they do. They do need, at the end of the day, this Zamboni they have is holding together on a hope and a prayer. Band-aids and so on.
The resurfer has seen his day.
It has seen its day, and the one that they currently have was purchased the exact same time as the one that was in Digby. And Digby replaced theirs 2 years ago with an electric one. So we can't even roll parts from that anymore. So the parts are non-existent.
Yes.
So I'm hoping that it will hold fast until they get. But I'm fully supportive of this one.
And you did ask about tournaments, that the resurfacer could last a whole day without causing grief?
Well, yeah, so, I asked a lot of questions. Yeah, they have no complaints, and I don't know if anyone's familiar with speed skating, but that's what my daughter does. So they go out and do the ice resurfacing every half an hour. Yeah, so every day, so they're on there 10 times a day, and there's never been an issue.
Sounds good. Thank you very much for all that. Deputy Warden? Councilor Hare, you're up.
Yeah, I'll just be brief. I guess my concern more lies in just ensuring that we are using Max Young Trust Fund diligently. Very grateful that we have a facility with such a fund available and top of capital expenses, and we just have a facility with a good fund. I just wouldn't want to see it, I don't just want to use the word, but I just want to ensure that there's a fund for a long time going forward. Certainly $190,000 is big money, even if there's a taxpayer, it's good to have a fund, and I just wouldn't want to see it go.
As you can see, they've taken good care of it.
Absolutely.
So it's in their hands, let's put it that way. We just kind of hold on it, and we want the money they can use for the rink. You were done, And Hagenberg.
I just want to speak briefly about that. I can tell you that having been around it for 25 years, 30 years, that's been a very stingy fund in terms of getting the money. There's been a lot of oversight. The only major time we ever dipped into the actual principal was when the roof was condemned at the rink, probably 20 years ago now. Just before the opening of the season, we were informed that the roof wouldn't bear the snow, and we shut the rink down. It was devastating. Without the Max Young Fund, and actually, we had to fight to get the funding out of the principal from the Max Young Fund with the caveat that it would be paid back with the funding that we could receive later, which is what the intent is here. So we've only ever used when I say we, the powers that be have only ever used mostly the earnings from the fund rather than the principal, which is why it's over $1 million today. And it continues to grow because it's a good investment project. So that's the plan. So the money that would be used out of the principal here will be paid back as we get grants, or as the BCR gets the grants for this purpose. I can't sit here and say it would be all of it, but whatever they get is gonna go back into the principal. So the fund, in answer to Councilor Ayer's concern, is, like I said, it's been very, it's hard to get the money, but it's, and that's the reason it's still there. I wouldn't lay anybody's concerns about that.
Thank you very much, Counselor. Are there any other questions? Seeing none? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no? Motion passed. Thank you. Merci, Madame Rowley. Our next report is prepared by Ms. Ryan. There she comes.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I have a presentation. I know a lot of people say, keep it brief, I'm not good at that, but I'll do my best.
Okay, just hold on one second, Madam Ryan. You put the motion on the floor, so Councilor Carson Salzman, could you?
Well, I move that committee of the whole recommend council approves the Annapolis County Fund Accessibility Plan 2026-2028 and submit the Nova Scotia Accessibility Directorate as the approved plan to guide actions over the next 3 years.
Thank you very much. Seconder. Granted. Right, thank you. And you're up.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so as many people may know in this room and may not, we've been working off a plan from 2022, which was our first accessibility plan that the county did. And so we've accomplished a great deal, but as with all plans, they're only good. I'll get to the next. So we're doing these because the Nova Scotia Accessibility Act, Bill 59, requires all municipalities within Southern Nova Scotia to have two things: an accessible advisory committee, and also to have accessibility plans that are updated every 3 years. So to move towards a very important goal, which is to have an accessible province by 2030. So we are now on our second accessibility plan, which is before you, and it is a joint one with the towns in the village of Georgetown. So it was, I put in a definition of disability here, which actually just wanted to bring attention to for the physical, mental, intellectual learning, and sensory impairment, including episodic disabilities. And it's really about breaking down barriers. So we all have communities, and what the most important thing is we want everyone to use them in the best way that they can possible for everyone. There's areas of focus. There are a number of built environment, the information and communication, goods and services, and there is the employment part of it, transportation, and of course an important part of what the Accessibility Act wants is the implementation and evaluation, and that happens basically every 2 years, or 4 years sometimes. So just to give you an idea, this county has actually, in my opinion, has done a great deal. You know, here is Bear River, a fully accessible comfort station, meets all the accessible guidelines, great job by Public Works. It's accessible, it's family friendly, and the community is very proud of that facility. This one here, it was already mentioned this morning, in the Annapolis Basin Cotw Beach Park. We do have a moving mat to the beach. We created a small park down there, fully accessible. We made improvements to it because the parking lot was so small. Community development worked with Public Works. We needed to expand the parking lot. I have to say, it's very impressive. Casey Bradman, our recreation manager, is working with the design phase of that, and in terms of that expansion and some of the improvements, you can see with that fence down there. So a great improvement. We learn all the time, every year when we go through these, some of the things that we're doing. If some of you know the Bridgetown Sports Hub, we did many accessible upgrades. So there's parking, ramps, washrooms, camping, and other amenities at that park. I mean, obviously it was an accessible our tennis court is now accessible, so people in wheelchairs can get into that and flow well. At Upper Clements Trails, we created 500 meters of accessible loop pathways through the woods with appreciated look-off and accessible picnic tables, signs, and other amenities. So, Cotw, accessible playground, we did improved parking, we've got pathways, we've got picnic tables, and we created a whole new playground that's very accessible. So I think it's been received by the community, so we're very pleased with that. So I mentioned earlier that there's an Apples County Joint Committee. IDEA stands for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Accessibility. It made a whole lot of sense for municipalities to work together. Instead of having 4 plans in a county, perhaps we could have one. And so the vision was, why don't we develop that? So we spent a year developing that. There's a terms of reference and strategy that all 4 parties have actually signed. Here is our committee. I won't go through them, except to say that CAOs and staff play a very important role in terms of these working towards these plans. Now, having said that, we're presenting 2 today, and when we're saying that there will be 2 reports, one is the plans of accessibility that's up now. The other one will deal with EDI, which is your equity, diversity, and inclusion. And one of the most important things is to remind people that province of Nova Scotia created the Accessibility Act in 2017, and they also created the Dismantling Racism and Hate Act in 2022. I bring that up because it's important because that's what the IDEA Committee is created for in the 4 municipal units. We're going to learn together, we're going to work together, and we're going to probably go through, some obstacles and what have you, but we're going to get to it in the end. So we did go to updating a plan, the 2 plans, was we hosted 5 public meetings across Annapolis County. We did a number of focus groups. We did direct email, we did word of mouth, we did one-on-one, we did advertising promotion. So, and we had to do part of this facility assessment. So that's one of the important criteria with the accessibility directorate is what have you done since 2022 and what do you plan to do in the next 3 years? So the appendix part is the most important part, I would say, for you to take a look at in terms of what we plan on doing now and in the future. Because if you look at it, we can be a leader and we can do that quite well. Facility assessments, well, we did 26 of them. We did not do audits. We figured that the audits will come down the road, but really the assessments are there. Our vision for the idea is we imagine a place where everyone is treated fairly and can take part in their community without any obstacles. The goal is to ensure that all municipal leaders consider accessibility and inclusion in everything that we do. This means everyone, regardless of background or ability, should have a voice and be respected. We want to create a community, and we have a lot of communities, where there is no racism or prejudice, where everyone feels safe and included, and where both visible and invisible disabilities are recognized and respected. So that is the vision for both plans. And the bottom line, and my final slide, is accessible facilities, projects, and programs, whether we're doing it in Annapolis County or the town of Annapolis, Royal, Middleton, and the village of Orangetown. It is all about making a difference for the person that's living in a wheelchair, some of the families that have disabilities, autism folks, people with so many other challenges. So I think we make a difference. We presented this slide here that in 2000 we created Old Mill Trail, and it was accessible trail long before the Accessibility Act of 2017. So this county, as well as many other counties, are working towards making our communities more accessible for everyone a long time ago. So, but we're working towards it. It's not going to happen overnight, but with your support and council and with staff support and the committee, IDEA committee, we can make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. There's a lot there. You did well. Okay, who's up? Any questions? Councilor Hare.
stuff that perhaps might be changing in the future, the way we operate or the way things are done that we aren't already doing now?
Well, I think the CEO can comment on that as well, but one of the things that we have done is we're trying to integrate our systems. We're working in cooperation with Public Works on projects collectively so that we understand. Obviously, maintenance is a big concern for accessibility, so yes, they have changed, two items. In the recreation world, of course, we've been in this business for a while, and but we've got recreation equipment that needs accessibility. We've got our programs implemented. We're looking at new opportunities to meet the needs of it. So yes, have we changed? Yes. Shall we say, when the budgets are available and both capital and operating, you have to change. But the leadership at the top makes a big difference. You, folks, makes a big difference in terms of supporting this initiative. So yes, I would say that we since 2022, we have made the change. Do we need to do a lot more sooner? Probably, but we'll get there and you'll hear about them as we move forward. So yes, the answer is we have been moving towards it. Things will change. Some of our policies have to be assessed for a variety of things to look at a EBI lens and accessibility lens. Some of that's already started. Some of the things with the plain language you're starting to see. We got to get better at plain language in our documents and what have you. So you'll start to see it over time, right from administration, right through to IT and what have you. We've added accessibility, for example, to a little fellow or person that you can go if you want your concerns with autism and press on our website. It will show, it will soften our website and do various things. The same thing with audio features and what have you. Don't know all the details. I'll get you the challenge. I'll challenge you to go take a look at it. Anyway, we're assessing it. It's an expensive program, but we feel we have to do it. And we're changing things like our proclamations. We're getting rid of eventually whereas. What does that mean? But anyway, so we're just making it easier. So that probably will answer a little bit.
Is there anything, just seeing if there is a particular example of mine that when we pass this day, hopefully something's immediately going to happen, but it just sounds like it's more of this generally already been happening, and there's nothing that we're going to see like there's going to be a huge change after we pass this within the county.
No?
I would jump in, Gordon,
Yes,
if you don't mind.
please.
To your question, Councillor, I mean, I would say there's a lot of recommendations in here. And, this is, anytime we do a plan or a strategy, and we've got 3 of them in the next 3 items here, that's direction from council to staff to say, you need to be thinking of these things, anything we do. So, when we start talking about any sort of development with a public works project, as an example, you need to make sure we're putting an accessibility lens on it, where in some cases in the past, we probably have done that, like that was shown, and other cases probably not to the same extent anyways. There's definitely things in here, Deb mentioned about, accessibility language, so that's something that we need to work on. We need to look at our website, we need to look at any of our communications. Even you'd notice with this, if we printed these all for you, which we did this time, like it's big font, like something as simple as that, which it's not something we have done on a regular basis, but those are types of things that we need to start to implement more and more. So you will see them, some of them won't cost us anything, it's just an action. And then there will be things that, probably when we talk budget this time, there'll be things that we'll have to say, we've been given direction under this accessibility plan or the EBI plan or the cost plan, which means that this is what we'll have to do. Some of them won't be big costs, but there'll be consideration that we need to make.
And I guess kind of why I asked that is I like a lot of this. I like it all for the most part. It's a matter of, I didn't really see, and I know it would be almost impossible to do, but I didn't really see a price tag attached to it. And I just want to make sure that we don't have our hands tied with projects moving forward. If something just absolutely isn't feasible to be considered accessible for all, I want to make sure our hands are tied. Or, I mean, every good deed comes at a cost. say that our hands won't necessarily be tied going forward in the future if we pass this today, if we deem that something, the cost is outweighing the good.
So if I may, Warden, to Councillor, so there is some things that it's not so much about what we've had in our plan, it's what's in the provincial guidelines that we have to follow at this point. So if we ever build a new building, there is aspects that need to be accessible. We don't have a choice on that.
Yes.
Is there a higher cost? Absolutely. Right? So there's some of those things that, you know, I don't want to use the words hands are tied, but we will have to do. We'll absolutely do it. And then there's other things that there might be, so if we develop a new trail, everything will not be 100% accessible, but there'll be, you know, I'm sure Deb would push for that, but we know that, you know, there's some things we can do and there's some things we can't do in that regard.
With all projects, and everything that's mandated, absolutely, it's just a matter of how much we go above and beyond, and we definitely should go above and beyond when we can. Just want to make sure that we don't tie our hands in that sense. And then just a question, county staff person who trained in the Hanson Foundation accessibility standards, is this one particular member of the county staff? Or?
Well, we've, Casey Gladwin is the recreation manager, and he's on up with the recreation board. That will happen before the end of this fiscal year. And but other staff, perhaps in public works, in the future will be trained as well. But it's the gold standard today, and that's the only certification program at this point in time.
But it won't be.
Not everyone.
With this, it won't mandate it, like, so, no, that's good.
When you know better and you do better. So,
Absolutely.
And we've learned. We learned from the Cotw beach, which we did in 2023, and we had to enlarge the parking space because we were overwhelmed with the number of people that are using it. That's a nice thing, it's council now. But secondly, we made a few mistakes along the way, so we improved them.
Under employment, between 17 and 18, I absolutely agree with the idea of going above and beyond to make any position on council or in the workplace accessible for everybody. I just want to make sure that we continue to, at the end of the day, hire on merit basis.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No hindrance in that, so. That's pretty simple. It was a big concern by me, and I didn't really even see a word against that. I just wanted to make sure that was the case. Actively invite people to municipal committees. Not to switch over to just when we start actively inviting some people, I don't know, I don't necessarily think it could be a bad thing, I just don't want it to go above and beyond. It's hard to describe what I'm getting at. I just want to be careful about how focused we get on actively inviting people to committees.
If you're talking about the idea committee, Accessibility Act very clearly states that you must have over 50% of people with some type of form of
On the
sitting
idea.
on the idea.
Yeah, this here says not just focused on idea. So be other committees as well. Is that what I'm getting?
We haven't done that yet, but that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
We invite openly anyone who wishes to volunteer on any committee that is added.
Oh, yeah. An open invite is fine. If that's what we're just gonna continue doing, is an open invite, we have an open invite, maybe in an accessible manner for people who need it. Absolutely. But I just wouldn't want to go into individuals per se and directly openly inviting individuals. So that was my concern with that. So it doesn't
we've already done that for the last 2 years. And we applied for a grant to do it again this year.
That basically covers a lot of my concerns. I do really appreciate the emphasis we have on accessibility. I can't imagine if I wasn't able to access things I can do. And, my line of work, I very easily hurt myself in many ways that would require these, accessibility. But I am, it sounds like we are doing it in a way that, is truly inclusive and it's not, laser focus or narrow on certain things. Unjustly balanced scales, so. I'll leave it at that.
Great, thank you. Councillor Harding.
Thank you. I'd just like to say thank you to the staff and everyone involved. It was a great report, and clearly a lot of time and effort has gone into it, and also the committee as a whole as well. And just reading this, it does state here in the Appendix C that not all parks can be made fully accessible, but additions and improvements can be made. So I think we're kind of understanding that we may not be able to do everything we would like to at every single location, but I also read in here that there is a plan to have signage in use at all of the parks with large font, QR codes, and information interpretive signs at facilities, and that this is hoping to be done at the end of a 3-year plan. So is this something that we're going to see in the budget funds coming for that, all the replacement of the signage and all of those things?
We're working towards that.
Okay.
And we're not gonna do it all in 1 year, we'll do 3, it might take 4, but one is that we don't have a kind of a plan. But a lot of that can be done, we have budgeted. Yes.
Over a 3-year sort of span to have all the signs replaced, so that is already budgeted. Okay.
Well, it's budgeted for next year.
For next year. So
And
we'll
we've
see that.
already done some. We've done it, we've learned some good lessons on the Frontage Trails, for example. It gets a lot of feedback, so modify and change, and again, if you're living with a visual impairment, then you want to ask those questions. Okay, so we learned some lessons about Frontage Trails, so we changed some of our signage on certain accessibility portions and growing that, so we'll apply that lens and do the parks management.
And I see also just, again, in the appendix here, we have the assessments that were done, which I think is great, and then we have the planned facility improvements. So I'm assuming that these are sort of broad improvements that could be.
You'll see them over the next 3 years in capital.
Okay, that was my question. Are they?
Some minor, there'll be an operating, which is just done, but the more bigger ones, will reflect in the budget, so we actually have a decision at that point.
So we'll see those in the budget
Yeah, and
discussion.
you'll have the opportunity to say yay or nay.
Excellent. Great. I just wanted a little clarification on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Granson.
I'll also say when it comes to the staff return report, I thought it was a great report and very much enjoyed reading this one. Probably more so than financial. So, because I like seeing this type of stuff. I kind of liked A, I also want to point out the job on the ideas committee. It showed not only was a great report, but it also demonstrated great collaboration with our municipal partners. Great collaboration there, which is always important. I thought the parts of the report was also a great snapshot of what was already been accomplished. So even if we weren't developing the plan as councillors, so it was a nice report of just a good inventory of where we at and what we had. And when you went through them, like right off the bat, because the contents and the listing and all that, like there was a lot. And what I liked was it's been consistent and applied throughout the county. So it's not just one pocket of the county or whatnot. The examples were shown throughout the county that pretty much everybody has access to. Some of the forgive me, is gonna apply to this plan and sort of overlap into the next two items as well, so I'll just say that if I hear. You know, I like the cross-department themes, so, you know, this is stuff the staff identified that it's not just, doesn't just apply to, the lens doesn't just apply to the rec department or community development, applies to all your departments, so there's references and requirements as to apply to public works. And you even referenced REMO in there, so we were talking about the AAR report earlier, so important to notice that accessibility applies there. I like that it's one committee and you developed two plans, because when I was first reading it, I didn't notice the second plan at first when I was reading it, the inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. It is a mindset, and it's you know, it's what the lens and way to think of it. But the inclusion, diversity, and equity tend to be more of building culture and building how we do things and building the workplace and whatnot. Where you know, there is some tangible, but the accessibility is more the physical, tangible thing. So for that reason, I thought it was good that the community developed two plans, because although they overlap and they're related, one's more culture-based and one's more physical-based.
I think we can thank Ron for that. There was quite a discussion.
Okay.
And it's important because it's going to two different provincial government agencies, so it made a lot of sense.
Okay.
Made it easier for staff to write.
Okay, well, all kinds of pros in doing things, so. Yeah, and I just like the, like it was mentioned earlier, I like the snapshot of what we've done for the use of the breakout of, it goes to a facility and shows 22, 25, and what the next plans are. It looked manageable to me. It's not all at once. It's much like the AAR plan and some of the other plans coming up. It's phased in over years. As was mentioned earlier, new projects right off the bat would meet the standards, and then maybe it's about going back and changing signs as budget allows. I saw potential for some cases to just use operating budget for some of this and whatnot. So it's certainly feasible, and in terms of new, it's really just building on what you already had in place. So it's not a changing government, it's reinforcing the ideas, mindset. And, yeah, so I just thought really good, and those were my key takeaways. So I support it 100%.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Any other comments? Councillor Longmire, Councillor Walsh?
Thank you, Morgan. Again, huge thanks to you, Ms. Ryan, and to the committee, and to the county for recognizing that being a leader in something so important is invaluable. I think that this report reflects thoughtfulness and has taken into account and will continue through more reviews and audits, right, as you said, you know, because we don't know all of the different abilities. There's things that we will see differently as we get moving along. At one point that I did note on the report was the online surveys. I mean, technically, it wouldn't be necessarily always accessible. So I'm thinking, you know, halls and things can play a huge role in taking surveys out and having people as well.
We made hard copies available at libraries.
Yes.
We did make them at community halls, but we did make sure that they were at the libraries and at our, certainly all the town facilities, town halls and our county office. So, and we kind of looked at that.
And you know what, thank you for that, Sharon. As, you know, I look around the county and I think about, you know, as we just recently saw the happenings, projects and things, the electric vehicle charging stations, you know, it's going to be very important that we're thoughtful on where we place those and how we place those. Right? Yeah. And parking spaces, you know, I'm always taking note on how parking spaces and the different abilities, you know, they're marked blue and they have a wheelchair inside that. You know, many people assume that that is for wheelchair and for, roller aids and things like that. And so it is, it's one part of a different ability, not always given enough space in order to get out and get their motorized vehicle out, like their roller aid or whatever, with their wheelchair. So, those things are gonna be so important going forward. And I've noticed that around our county and around the province, right? They'll often park sideways to be able to give them enough space to open up their back door, right? Let me see. I did have a chance to attend one of the meetings, and I thought it went really, really well. It was great sharing in on that. I think, for Douglas County, we certainly do show up as a leader, and people are talking about us because we are entering into this and getting busy with it. And like it has been already said, you can't change everything that already exists, but what you can do going forward is, with more awareness, do better, right? And so, that's where we're gonna continue to go. The fairness for all, right, as best as we can get. As Councillor Hare said, until you've lived with a different ability, you can't understand the obstacles that people face, right? And so it does take them out of being able to participate and be part of and present in wonderful, exciting experiences that will enrich their lives. And so we want to give everyone the very best chance at doing so.
There's one important point you brought up is Nova Scotia has the highest rated disability in Canada. So anything that we can do to improve that in our county will attract more people to it. So it's, and already businesses are stepping up. So, we have places like Mersey River Chalets, they made their place accessible many years ago. So they have that. Edelweiss has done their job up in Mount Hanley. So we're seeing great examples. Margarettsville, they've created community. They want to make an accessible boardwalk. They have to, they had to tweak a few things over time, but they make an accessible boardwalk. They bring it in and out every year. It's a big plus. So they've done a lot in their community care. And the community halls have stepped up. You know why? Because they found out that their residents, their seniors, couldn't use the washroom downstairs. They bring it upstairs. So, and we help fund this, and you have helped fund this, and the province has helped fund this. So it's we do things little bits at a time. By the way, please tell people that I did say I was going to try to be short. The accessibility program for both business and community is available, and the deadline is February 1st. There's still opportunities to encourage your business folks to look at it. You can get substantial money. We can too, and we are going to apply.
So I just want to finish with one point. And our CAO had spoke about it. I recognized immediately upon opening up my package, which was paper because I just got my iPad back. But it was in a font that was really thoughtful. Thank you for that, because I had attended at NSFM a session on accessibility, and it was a very big meeting room, many round tables and tons of chairs, and the screen was way up front, and the font was so small. It was like 1,000 words on one page, and it's like, I can't see anything, not even with my glasses. So anyway, it just raised the point. Well done, Ms. Ryan, and whoever else participated for just the thoughtfulness of putting it in our package as in this manner with the font size, right? And so thank you to the CAO for pointing that out. And again, leader, thank you.
I was at the same meeting and I said, this is not very accessible.
And I raised my hand and said it.
I didn't bring my telescope with me. Binoculars for it.
It was hard to follow.
Councillor Wells, you're up.
I'll be brief. I was just going to bring up the same point that Councillor Longmire brought up with the attention to detail that I've seen in this plan. And last night we discussed the size of the font that is in the package, and things like this is an accessible document. And one of the things that I think that gets, we look at infrastructure and accessibility from that perspective quite often, but one of the things that I really appreciated noting, and I went in and looked at it, was the accessibility on our website too. So I really appreciate it. It's a detailed detailed, but it's didn't get missed, and I really appreciate that that was there. So, thank you.
And I'll finish off with saying thank you. And I've been sitting at this table for a while, and through this idea committee, it's broken up differently. However, we've seen a lot of progress through the time, because accessibility is just not one thing, and it has to take in quite a few things. And we've talked about everything you've been doing before, years ago, and it's coming up very clear, the work is being done, and we're gonna move ahead with that, I'm pretty sure. Thank you so much for everything. Okay, anybody else? Okay, on the motion, all in favor signify by saying yes?
Yes.
Opposed, no? Thank you very much, motion passed. And Mr. Local, Madame Ryan, and your group. And, oh, we forgot to mention, a few years back, there was a student that actually said on the committee.
Yes, we
Remember
had
that?
one fellow from Bridgetown. He's
Yeah.
since moved to Halifax.
Yes.
But, I think he's working with the Institute of Blind Institute, so
Yeah.
we're very fortunate to have him with us.
Yes, we were.
And up next,
All right, we are on page 162, they're running up to the podium, is it good? We have a staff report, which is being presented by Madame Blanc. And we have a recommendation there, so if somebody would like to read that. Councillor Aguilar.
I move that council approve the 2026-29 Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion EDI plan.
Thank you very much. Seconder, I believe I saw Mr. Welch, Councillor Welch's hand go up. Why not? Okay. Thank you. You're up.
Thank you, Morgan LeBlanc, and I want to thank Deb for that wonderful presentation on accessibility, because I'm going to share with you a little short video that's going to give a brief overview of the EDI plan, and maybe also some new information and concepts. I'm excited to share the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Plan for Annapolis County. Some of this language may be new, so this video will explain what these words mean, why they matter, and how the plan helps us build a community where everyone belongs and no one is held back because of unfair treatment or racism. In 2022, Nova Scotia passed the Dismantling Racism and Hate Act. This law asks municipalities to look for unfair barriers in our communities and take steps to remove them. It also tells us to listen to and support people who've been left out or treated unfairly in the past. To understand racism, we need to understand race. Race is something society created. It's not a biological fact. It's based on things like skin color, hair, or facial features. Even though race isn't real in a scientific way, the idea of race is powerful, and that's what leads to racism. Racism is when people are treated unfairly because of these differences. Being anti-racist means more than just saying you're not racist. It means noticing racism when it happens and taking action to stop it. Racism is like weeds in a garden. Anti-racism is actively removing them so everyone can grow. Let's move on to equity. Equity is about fairness, noticing where people face barriers and giving them what they need to succeed. Imagine two families want to register their children for a municipal tennis program. This family has money, time, equipment, computer at home, and a car. They can register online and drive their child around. Another family is living on a tight budget, shared phone with limited data, and relies on public transportation. No equipment, making participation difficult. Equality would be saying, everyone pays the same fee and must register online. Equity means saying, let's notice the barriers and adjust so everyone has a fair chance. So the municipality might provide in-person or paper registration, schedule programs to match transit availability, share program information through schools and community spaces, offer a small supply of loaner rackets and balls, create an equipment library for recreation programs. Now both families can participate. Let's take a confident and able to take part. It's about removing the barriers so people can join in and have their voices heard. In a community, inclusion means making sure all residents, no matter their age, ability, income, culture, or background, can access services, attend events, and share ideas. For example, when planning a public meeting about a new park, inclusion could mean holding meetings at accessible places and times, sharing information in print, online, and audio, offering childcare, inviting groups who are often overlooked, like newcomers, youth, and 2S LGBTQ+ community members. This helps everyone feel welcome and valued. The last word in our puzzle is diversity. It celebrates the many backgrounds, cultures, and identities in our community, giving voice and presence to different people and perspectives. As an example of this, a municipality can host a Culture in the Park Festival, where residents share food, music, and art from their cultures. Our Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Plan will guide us in building a community where no one is left out or held back. It will steer our future actions in policymaking, programs and services, committees, and community initiatives, making fairness and inclusion part of everything we do. The plan emphasizes listening to and building relationships with Mi'kmaq, African Nova Scotian, and other community members whose voices have not always been fully heard, so everyone feels respected, valued, and included. This means inviting people into planning early, sharing ideas and decisions, and learning from one another so our programs, services, public spaces truly reflect the needs of our community. Another goal is to foster a deep understanding of equity, diversity, and anti-racism principles within our organization. This includes regular staff and council training, ongoing reviews of policy and programs, and continuous learning to ensure our services are fair and welcoming. This is a journey and a commitment to create safe and welcoming spaces where everyone feels they belong. Thank you.
There's one more video.
Yes.
Definitely set the bar high for the other staff. Put yourself up there.
As you know, Deb loves to speak. As you know, I have little words.
Okay. So, do you wish to add anything else there, Madame, or should we ask for questions?
No, I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any questions or any other comments from the floor? Yes, Mr. Granton?
So, thank you for that, and a lot of what's in my previous comments apply here as well. One thing I just wanted to say, like, a lot of thought obviously went into your points in your videos, and I like the inclusion of the point around the public transit, like consideration of the schedule and whatnot. Having worked in a nonprofit organization, that was something when we were figuring out logistics of programming, that was a key criteria. It is one that is often overlooked when thinking about inclusion or not. It's not necessarily physical attribute of your participants, but it is a situational attribute to be consideration. And a lot of times the organizers, if they're not reliant on public transit, it's not first and foremost in their mind. So, not a single one, but that was one that really stood out for me because it is a very important piece of the puzzle to be mindful of the situation of the users of your services.
Thank you. Sir? Any other cancer? Dr. Longmire?
And I've lost the word I wanted to use, but anyway, hopefully I'll find it. Thank you for that. What a sensitive, beautiful presentation to explain a very challenging, unfortunate situation that we do face, right? I loved basically the simplistic, our commitment. You know, page 177 of 210, We understand that achieving meaningful inclusion and reconciliation requires time, trust, and continuous dialogue. And then down at the bottom, the plan will undergo an annual review and will be updated based on the insight, because we're listening, that we're meeting with people. And that we're not arrogant enough to think that we can answer all the questions and figure it out. If it were as simple as just respecting people and going forward, I think maybe we could achieve, but it's far deeper than that now. And so based on the insights we gain from our partners and within our organizations, you know, it's important. You had made a very strong point there that said, you know, if you recognize something, you know, we have a responsibility to step up and step out and say something, to show up and be different, right? So, you know, I thoroughly appreciate everything that you put into this, and as well as Councillor Cranley had said, you know, we spoke to Ms. Ryan with her report, and so much of this is really all kind of tangled together, right? But in many ways, separate and different, right? More, maybe perhaps even a little more sensitive in some ways. So thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, Councillor Oxner.
On page 180, building relationships. The first point is invite representatives from Mi'kmaq and African Nova Scotia communities. Are we not excluding people from other cultures? Is there a way to word that to make our immigrant population feel more welcome to participate?
We can add that in the plan, and if you notice in the beginning of building relationships, we have Indigenous, African Nova Scotian, Canadian, and we can ensure that all diverse communities are represented. It would just be a lot to put every nuance community in here.
Because, you know, people's reactions sometimes becomes negative when they're repeatedly hearing about our African Nova Scotia communities and our native communities. They feel others are being excluded, and as the opposite effect that
we reword it to.
I'll leave that up to you to reword it.
Okay.
Because I know you'll do a great job with it. I just want it to be consistent throughout the document. So have it in one place and not another. That would be my recommendation.
Before I speak, sure, go ahead. Sure, go ahead.
Just to your point, Councillor Oxner, I think certain communities are specifically identified because they've been the ones that have been historically excluded. So it's important to make sure that they're included specifically. So as Alyssa mentioned, like, we want everybody to be included. We also we have to enforce that we're specifically trying to include particular communities that have been typically excluded.
You might cut me off, that's what. Anything else? Or is it, okay, Councillor Hare?
I'm just gonna make a comment. I'm very curious to see how this is all gonna be implemented and played out. It sounds like there's gonna be a monetary value that's gonna come out of this. Just wanna make sure that's within our means, but in our budget, and we don't break the bank on that. I'm just very curious how it's gonna be implemented, that, you know, as we're trying to balance that seesaw, we don't go over top and go beyond. So just want to make sure of that.
You? We have to include it. Who's next? Mr. Harding, did you have your hand up?
No.
Or did I just dream that?
You were dreaming.
Okay, perfect, then I guess it's my turn. May I speak?
Yes, you may.
On page 178 of 212, I more or less have the same opinion as Councillor Oxner, and it started on that page because at the top it says our aim is to establish lasting and respectful connections with Indigenous, African, Nova Scotian, and Acadian communities. So the Acadian was added up there, but not throughout the report. So I was thinking that it should be included as well as, and of course, any other communities that wish to be. Because when it went through the objective, but it maybe should only be put at the top, because when you went through the objectives, you added the two SLGBTQ in that section, but in no other section. So maybe it should all be presented in living relationships, and then just put it all up there, and then when we take the rest, you won't have to pick individually.
Well, as this is a plan, I think it will be approved today. Do you want to make a motion?
Well, that's what I'd like, but who's gonna make the motion for me? To do some of these changes to put all of the individuals at the beginning of building the relationship?
I heard option.
You heard Ochsner was doing it?
Okay, I have to write it down.
Basically, an amendment.
It's the, well, maybe we could just add to the motion. Yes, we have it on the floor. That, amended by adding, by doing corrections as indicated, as discussed. Got that, Counselor?
Yeah. I'm sure you'll correct me if I stumble.
Well, I just put an amendment that you wish to add, and then we'll vote on that, and then we'll,
I move to amend portions of the document as discussed by council.
okay, that's your amendment. Do you want clear?
That might need a little more. I think what you said.
Well, I just read what she's saying,
To
and portions
like
of the
all
document
people?
as discussed.
Okay, hold on.
All equity deserving
Exactly.
All equity deserving individuals or groups.
communities.
Can you, did you get that?
No.
Okay. Say it again.
Now you gotta remember it. You need the whole thing or just the
Take
last?
your time, that's the last
Just
bit.
the last place.
Okay, so Alyssa, you're gonna have to help out with your wording again.
To include equity deserving.
To include equity
members.
deserving community members and groups.
Would you kindly read
To
the
amend
amendment?
portions of the document by, as discussed by council, to include equity deserving communities or groups.
Okay, we have a second here, Councilor Navarro. We're only voting on the amendment, as just said. So all in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passed. Okay, so now we're voting on the whole motion. Any questions before I ask? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passed. Thank you very much. Madame, merci beaucoup, great job. You're hired for all the videos. She didn't hear that, I won't tell her before it's done. The video version. Okay, we are on page 187, and this document is prepared, a report by Madame Dubois.
So I kind of feel like Alyssa is that really cool substitute teacher that just wrote in TV and CCR, and you saw a great movie, and there's a real teacher there.
I move municipal council approve the municipality of the county of Annapolis communication strategy 2026-28 as presented.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilor Cranton. Thank you. And you're up, Madame.
So I will keep this brief. Not only am I following a fantastic film, I am now in dinner time, so I know you're probably anxious. So I'll keep it very short. This strategy was built on one that was actually completed in 2012. So it's been a minute since we've addressed this. So I came back to that, and I also wanted to reflect the values that you've already set out in the strategic vision for 2027, and the strategic priorities. At the core, this strategy is actually quite simple and routine, but it's very important. And the reason it's important is because what this document will help us learn and move forward on how we're going to communicate with the people that we serve, which is our residents. It will hopefully show how we share information, how we listen, how we explain decisions, and how we show up as a municipal government so that we're transparent, respectful, and accountable. All very important. I had the kids to wake up call. They're in their 20s. I thought they stopped asking hard questions, but they don't. So over the winter break, I was doing this up, and they said, well, what exactly do you do? So I had to think about it for a second, and I said, you know what? Effective communication isn't just about posting updates to the website or writing media releases. It's actually the key tool that we are using to build public trust, to encourage community participation, and it ensures residents understand not only what the county is doing, but exactly why we're doing it, which is very important. I mean, they thought that was very important something, so I was very Through our strategy, I want to provide a practical framework that will both guide external communication as well as internal communication. So I think that's very important. We need to ensure that staff and council are all informed and aligned and supported. So we need one consistent and professional voice when we're talking to the people that we serve. So this strategy, I tried to place a strong emphasis on being proactive, and as you have heard through the last two presentations, of clean language communication. So I worked with Deb and Alyssa on how we can move forward with our communicating to make it accessible to everyone and ensure everyone's included. We also have to strengthen relationships, which I think is very important inside and outside of the county office, and supporting council and staff, making sure we have clear, consistent goals and messaging, and also promoting a unified and recognizable county brand. So when people see our brand, they associate it with good, and they are recognized immediately. So a good example of that was during the West Dublin wildfires. One of the biggest challenges I had as the PIO, Public Information Officer, was my Facebook warrior. So there was a lot of information going out on Facebook that wasn't necessarily legit. So by having a good county brand, we were able to say, if you see our brand on it, or the province's emergency management, or public works, or DNR, they knew that that was a good organization, and I think that's very important in moving forward with our communication strategy. So essentially, unlike the other two presentations, this plan wasn't developed on any, it was completely staff-driven, and as you can see, it's not just, I'm not solo on this, it's a partnership between everyone, and it reflects everyone, including council and staff. Hopefully, you know, when you turn it on, I don't have a video, but I hope it was a real page turner.
You doodle on it.
So if you have any questions, hopefully I'll be able to answer them.
Are there any questions for the crowd? Oh, wait a minute. Who's first? Cranton? Longmire? Who's next? I saw 3 hands. Oh.
Just more comments and questions. So again, another good document. And again, I felt a lot of the documents they had overlapping themes and you know, although maybe for
municipality is a large organization, it is a complex organization, it's a complex organizational chart. And when you look at organizational development and businesses and things like that, internal communication is an area in this day and age where organizations can have massive failure and significant problems can develop by poor communication strategies internal. So we referenced in the first documents, in the one that Deborah said, that the benefit of it's not just recreation, the product of all the other ones as well. Could you imagine if council was making decisions, public works wasn't being told or anything like that, or things like that. So, and I trust, you know, the communication is good, but when you have, for example, one department's doing this, and I think we've all most, especially in government bureaucracies, where it seems like at higher levels that this department doesn't know what the other department's doing. It's the same in private enterprise, nonprofits, and all that. It's a very important aspect. It can be make or break on success at times. So kudos for staff on recognizing the importance of it and developing a well-followed plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Next, London.
Thank you, and thank you, and as well, Ms. McCormick, as you said, partnership, right? That's what it really is all about. And so the partnership starts here and then moves out, right? And as we hear good feedback on our, the way we conduct ourselves, or the way we share information, the consistent messaging, it's so important, right? And so just as Councillor Cranton had said, the package was huge, but it was the most entertaining package. Because I think it was a perfect marriage here with these three. Yeah, it was perfect, because there are budget implications, there are things to consider sensibly, there's, different groups and communities, and so it was a perfect marriage. So ending it with this, again, this is part of this accessible, structure, right? And I go back and I think how difficult it is when I go online, when I go on to view our meetings online. I can't hear, the papers are rustling, it's really distracting and it's difficult, right? So we're showing up as leaders. I see all this wonderful detail that you and the staff have put together. And again, it grows from there as we learn more, right? So, well done.
Thank you, Councillor. Next is Councillor Dunbar.
Thank you. My reference is for page 195, communication goals external. And I'm looking at the strategies, which is, this whole page is clearly aimed at council. Communications externally, because that's highlighted here. Share council updates, project milestones and budget summaries in plain language. Push council highlights, publish council highlights. Particularly the last one where it says host in-person meet and greets and live stream, ask council sessions on the YouTube and Athens County channel. So I guess really what I'm boiling down to is that last one, and I'd like you to, if you would, is elaborate a little bit of what the intent of that is. I understand the verbiage, but I'm wondering, I'm trying to envision what that looks like.
Absolutely.
And that, is it specifically to do with like our meetings here? Well, obviously not just for meet and greets, that's a whole different thing. But just how do you see that?
So I had a vision, I'll be honest.
That's what I'm looking for, a vision.
When we were moving forward, and I think one of my goals is to present council in an open, transparent way. And to do that is to engage our residents. So, and it's always been, I'll be honest, it's been a challenge. It's always been one of my biggest challenges. And again, I don't like to keep bringing up the West Dalhousie wildfire, but there actually were some really positive learning aspects from the fire. And one of the things that really stood out to me was when we were having our 3 p.m. pressers, which is every day we had come on at 3 p.m. Deputy Warden Winslow would be there to give an update. Even if it was brief, it
opened up the door. So I was like, well, we should really be doing something like this, not just in an emergency or in a disaster, but maybe we could bring this forward in a more positive light. And not so much open it up for people to call in, but maybe email us and email some of your questions in, and then we could have a designated time where we could have an actual video of, here, these are the questions I answered, asking, can we have some good answers? It's just an engagement tool to bring our counselors and our residents together. The meet and greet is something that I actually saw in a neighboring municipality, so you're kind of stealing an idea, like sharing, let's say sharing. Where they actually have, I think it's quarterly, I'm still getting the details on this because I'm actually talking to one of my counterparts in the neighboring municipality, but they actually have, much like some of our counselors already do have coffee time, but they bring the whole council in. And it's not because it's a controversial issue, it's not because we're doing some big project that we need their input in, it's literally just to talk to our residents in a casual, one-on-one, how's it going? I'm visioning it as a world cafe where we have different people set up and maybe we have different topics that they want to talk about. It truly is still in the planning stages and in my head. So I have to get it out on paper and I have to talk to our CAO and of course it's going to get everybody here. But it's just really, this is my way of bringing the community and council a little closer in a more proactive, we're not reacting to something, we're not going to them because we have a problem or we want input on something specific. It's just bringing them together to communicate and hopefully make.
Well, I'm looking forward to what type of communication you're going to get. People you're going to speak to, and see how that's going, and see how that can be a very positive thing. But it can also be a negative thing.
Yes, it's going to be a learning phase, and again, I'm talking to one of my counterparts to see how they make out and what's some of their tricks to, making it happen in a positive way.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? No? Well, thank you, Madame McCormick. You have a lot of work to do, as you can see. Anyway, thank you so much for this report. Having said that, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passed. Merci, Madame. Okay, we're at the end here. So nothing under new business. So now I need a motion to go in camera under section 22(2)C, personnel matters, 22(2)G, legal advice, same as 7.3, 22(2)G, legal